is appropriate that Providence has placed before us this book of Judges and this passage of Gideon, because in the feast of Saint Bernard, because those two vocations are in a way similar. Why is that? Well, at the time of Gideon, as we've heard, Israel was in real crisis. All the land had been invaded, and the Israelites were persecuted in their own land. And at the same time, we have Saint Bernard, who lived in a very difficult time as well, in a time of crisis. The time where the traditional order of the Benedictines was really having a hard time. They had become rich in the gospel sense. They were trusting more in the possessions and stuff. And their spirit, in a way, had been corrupted, the original spirit of St. Benedict. So St. Bernard started the reform of the Cistercians, as you know. But what I believe it to be a similarity is the fact that Gideon was there, and he was not afraid to ask the angel of the Lord, what are you talking about? If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? So as a good young man, he presented his request before the Lord and said, hey, it's not all okay. There are problems here, and we need to do something about it. And then the Lord showed him the way. But he himself was constantly kind of questioning the call in a good sense, or even complaining, so to speak, to the Lord, saying, why? If you are with us, where are you? And then he finally ended up following what the Lord was asking from him, just the same as St. Bernard. St. Bernard as well, as we said, lived in a very difficult world at the time. The world was kind of a crisis. And he became one of those leaders, one of those saints that are like stars, just as he called Our Lady, the star of the sea, Stella Maris. Okay, he became one of those stars of the history of the Church. He channeled all his youth and all his strength so that the Lord could reign in the middle of that difficult world. And he did not remain passive. We're in the psalm, we were asking for peace. And as we just heard in the gospel last Sunday, the Lord was questioning them. Do you think I've come to establish peace on earth? I've come to establish, the kingdom. And sometimes, and many times, always, the kingdom demands from us that we should work for it too, with the help of the Lord, so that this world can be on fire. So it's great to celebrate the feast day of Saint Bernard today, because we are living in difficult times as well. But we should ask his intercession so that, just following his example, we would channel all this energy that we have, so that the Lord could reign here by doing and developing our own vocation. So just as St. Bernard just developed all these great reform of the Cistercians that brought so much energy into the Church, and so much light. Remember that if you study the history of art, the Romanesque style is linked with the Benedictines, and then the Gothic style is linked with the Cistercians, because the light came in to the Church. So with all these beautiful, Gothic cathedrals, that found ways so that they could open those spaces in those beautiful stained glasses windows in the Gothic style. Well, just the same, we are also called to bring in light to the Church by being faithful to our vocation. We are called to establish the peace, but also through our own neighbor. So let us ask the Lord to give us his grace that will help our efforts to establish his kingdom.